Welcome to the next lesson in human reproduction. So this is another relatively short lesson. Our learning intention today is to understand the stages of the menstrual cycle. So this little diagram up here shows you roughly average menstrual cycle. It is taken as being 1 to 28 days, not necessarily true for every female, and we talk about it in batches of days for the most part. So the kind of most important ones would be day 1 and day 14. So every month from puberty, the female body gets ready for potential pregnancies, and the menstrual cycle is just these series of changes. So it starts at puberty and it will continue until menopause, which is what's the name given to the end of a woman's reproductive life. And while it means from puberty a female is capable of physically getting pregnant and having a baby, all of the data would say that what they call it maternal outcomes and pregnancy outcomes, and that they are very poor. So what that means is, even though we live in the 21st century, moms can die if they're too young, and the babies sometimes don't survive. So it really isn't recommended under the age of 20 to get pregnant, because realistically you're still growing up at that point too. So this won't unfortunately work on a Mac, so we're going to look at it this way. So you're going to draw this circle for me and we're going to highlight some things on it. So the first thing that we're going to go for is you're going to put menstrual cycle in the middle. And we're going to look at it in terms of its important batches of days. So the first one that we look at is day 1 to 5, and this is given the title of menstruation, and essentially it is when a period starts. So a period is the endometrium lining breaking down because the egg from that previous month wasn't fertilized. So the body gets rid of the old endometrium lining, and then from days 6 to 12 it starts making new endometrium lining. So your endometrium builds up again in the hope that the female is going to get pregnant. So then we look at batches of days. So we go 12, we put 12 here. So roughly from day 13 to 15 is when ovulation happens, and this is when the egg is released from the ovary and now is available for fertilization. But what you should be aware of is roughly, I'm trying to make this in a thicker line, from days 12 to 17, and I'm going to put these in a box to make them different, is what's called the fertile period. So even though a female may not have ovulated, if there is sperm present during that time, the female can get pregnant. So after days 16 to 28, apologies, in the wrong place. So after days 16 to 28, your endometrium is still built up. It is hoping an egg has been fertilized, and if so, it'll get ready for the next stage. But if there is no fertilization occurs, then the cycle starts again. And as you said, this continues from sometime when you're 12. So some females are younger, some are older, up until a female hits menopause. So the SEC will always look at it in terms of days. What happens in days 1 to 5? What happens day 14? What happens days 12 to 17? So here are just some of the words that we're going to associate with the menstrual cycle. So here the menstruation is days 1 to 5, so please make that link, and the lining of the uterus breaks down. Ovulation is day 14, and this is when your egg is released from your fallopian tube. So when we drew our girl bits, we drew it like this. So that is your uterus. These are attached on here, and the egg is released and it goes into your fallopian tube for either fertilization, or it will exit the body if it's not fertilized. So the fertile period is the time during your menstrual cycle when the chances of getting pregnant are high if there are sperm present. And menopause, we've said, is the end of your reproductive life. And in that time, the female will stop producing eggs and producing hormones, and periods will eventually stop. So here we're just going to make a link between what happens in the cycle versus the reasons for it. So that hopefully will give you greater understanding. So we've said day 1 to 5 is menstruation. So the reason for that is the egg isn't fertilized, so the lining isn't needed. Day 6 to 13, the blood lining is building up again, and the reason is because the body is getting ready for a potential pregnancy. Day 14 is ovulation, when your egg is released, and the whole point of that is now to make the egg available for fertilization. So it puts it into the fallopian tube so it can meet sperm if it's pregnant. And days 15-28, your egg will travel to the uterus. The lining of the uterus is still being maintained. If there's no fertilization, it will exit the body, so it'll go out through the vagina. And if there's no fertilization, then the lining breaks down and we go all the way back up to here and start again. And the reason for this is 15 to 28 is in the off chance that pregnancy occurs, the uterus is going to be ready for the next steps. Now, your job is going to be to update your notes pictures in the class notes section. There's no point in me playing you this TED Ed video because the noise would be really, really tinny. So I've put the link into your assignment, and I suggest you watch it before you complete the questions. You need to complete the homework questions that are attached to the assignment, and I am waiting on Zoom to answer any of your questions.